Hello and welcome to the back room again, ladies. So today what we're going to talk about is what can speed up your recovery, basically. It comes down to a framework that I developed a number of years ago so that I could explain to my patients what their involvement was in their recovery. Because at the end of the day, I'm only going to be seeing them for a few minutes and then they've got the rest of their lives to live. So I came up with a natural framework, and so I'm just going to very briefly touch on the natural elements. Okay, so N stands for nutrition. So what we need to do is make sure that our diets are appropriate and they will first of all be anti-inflammatory, reduce inflammation. One of the challenges that we always have when we're dealing with a back problem is the amount of inflammation that's within the body, whether it be local to the condition or whether it be that we've got some global inflammation issue going on. We also want to manage our weight because weight can place a lot of stress and strain on the joints, and that can make a back problem worse. And then also what we want to do is make sure that our diet is, can't think. What do we want to do? And then also what we want to do is make sure that our diets will ensure that our bodies can heal and repair appropriately, that we're getting adequate nutrition, that we have a nutrient dense diet basically. Okay, so that's nutrition. Next is alignment and posture, and this consists of two elements. And first of all, what we want to do is make sure that spinal movement is good in itself, and that's where sometimes you may have to go off to see a chiropractor, an osteopath, a physiotherapist, somebody along those lines. And then we're also dealing with the postural elements. They will be influenced by the treatment that you receive elsewhere, but then there's also an awful lot that you can do to improve your posture. One of the things that is, when we're talking about posture, basically what we want to do is make sure that you limit the amount of strain that is going through your joints. And so that is obviously the first focus. But then also what we want to do is have a level of awareness that we have a posture regardless. When we're talking about posture, generally what happens is we talk about when we're standing, so obviously when you're doing, say, a posture analysis, we tend to do it standing. So we look at you from the front, we look at you from the side, we may take images. There's special apps now that allow us to do special assessments as well. But then also we could look at you when you're sitting, let's say at your desk, and those are the two most common things that are spoken about. But the reality of it is you have a posture regardless of what you're doing. You could be sitting, you could be slobbing on the sofa, you could be on your screen, on your iPad or something like that. You could be squatting. We've already mentioned the sitting side of stuff. Or what about when you're sleeping? Every activity that you have a posture. And so it's being aware of how you move your body and how you hold yourself while you're doing all activities, not just when you're standing up straight and somebody's looking at you and saying, oh, that's not in alignment or that's out and all that kind of thing. Okay. The next one is T for thoughts in a natural foundation. And basically what we want to do is, if you're stressed or your thoughts aren't as good as what they could be, let's put it that way, then what happens is your body is going to respond to that. Now, your body has no idea whether the stress is real or not, whether it's in your head and imagined, or whether you've got, everybody talks about the saber-toothed tiger that's going to be chasing you. So ultimately what happens is the body responds and reacts to any sort of stress in the same way. It releases the cortisol hormones that flood your body. It prepares your body for fight and flight. It's a preparation mechanism. Okay. Now, the challenge for us when we have back problems is it makes those muscles tight initially. And what that actually is, it's preparation for the fight or flight. It's getting you ready to run away and getting you prepared for that situation. But obviously, it doesn't just tighten the muscles over your shoulders and in your neck, which obviously they're the ones that we commonly notice and feel initially. It's actually going to tighten all of the muscles in your body. It is a preparation mode. So what we need to do is keep those stress levels down in order to help those muscles relax off. Now, the other challenge is when your cortisol levels are elevated. So you know how anabolic steroids build you up, yeah? Well, cortisol is a catabolic hormone. It actually destroys tissues. It breaks them down instead when you have it there for a prolonged period of time. Short bursts the body can live with, but a prolonged period of time, no, then you're dealing with something else. So what actually happens is because your tissues are getting damaged, they're getting weakened, and this increases your risk of getting problems and back problems and for your back to become weaker, you know, when we're talking about a glass back in particular. So it's something to be aware of when we're talking about your stress levels and how vitally important it is to the health and well-being of your back. So next one is unsafe toxins. Unsafe toxins is a bit of a weird topic because I can go in all sorts of different directions. I can give you examples of how chemical overload will lead to exactly the same stress response as if you've got poor thoughts. The mechanism and the response in your body is identical. So chemical overload can do the same thing and weaken the tissues and make the muscles go tight initially in order for the fight or flight response. But then you can go into the real weird and wonderfuls, and that could be something such as piercings. So belly button piercings, piercings all over. And one of the things that, well, the theory behind it is that it disrupts specialized nerve endings in your skin called proprioceptors. And so then your body has got abnormal messages going up to the brain. Scars can do exactly the same thing, of all things. So one of the ways that I assess for it in clinic is applied kinesiology, where I can muscle test people and find out whether something along those lines, such as a piercing, could be causing their back problem. And in a number of cases, it has been the case in clinic. Literally all we have gone and done, we haven't done, let's say, a formal treatment, chiropractic treatment. All I've gone and done is got them to remove a piercing, and within a couple of days their back is absolutely fine, you know. So yeah, the weird and wonderfuls when you're talking about unsafe toxins, as I call it. Next is rest. Rest is absolutely essential to your recovery and making sure that, number one, you go to sleep at the right time, but then also you are lying completely flat. And it's because what we want their discs to plump up while you're lying down. They need an adequate amount of time to do that. They don't have a blood supply, so they need gravity to push the fluid out, and for you to be lying down for the fluid to go back into the discs so that they get some nice new nutrition to keep them healthy again. Healthy discs need this mechanism of going from weight bearing to non-weight bearing over and over again in order to maximize their health. Okay. And then also obviously it's just going to bed at the right time. As my grandma used to say, it's the hours before midnight that count. And that's very, very true. So you get, if you were to be asleep by around about 11 o'clock, between 11 and 1 in an afternoon, you get surging growth hormone. Growth hormone is one of nature's healers, and it's when physical healing occurs in your body. Mental healing tends to be between 2 and 4 in the morning, but physical, 11 till 1 is your maximum time. So when you get a surge of growth hormone, you want to be asleep, you want to be resting, you want your body to be relaxed, so you get maximum healing. Next one is activity, A for activity. When we're talking about activity levels, there are activity levels that are normal for a human being. I have a wonderful doctor that works for me, but he is addicted to exercise. He loves doing his triathlons. He used to be an ultra runner, all that kind of thing. But he is also very acutely aware that this isn't necessarily normal or natural for the body. He's great at it. His body is like a machine, but he also knows that he's pushing his body to his limits, and that it's going to take its toll, and that there's a level of wear that comes with it. So what we want to do is exercise at levels that are right for us as human beings. And I mean, the reality of it is, the vast majority of it, if we're talking about what we would have done when we were tribal, and what would have been more natural, is quite a lot of walking, occasional sprinting, and some heavy lifting. Okay, and it's just getting more of a balance, and not thinking, oh, I've got to go to the gym and I've got to go crackers when I'm at the gym, or whatever exercise it is that you like to do. Okay. And then final one is love and connection, and having a support network, and people that encourage you is vitally important to your overall health and well-being. As human beings, we crave human connection, and without it, our bodies do not function at their best. And so making sure that we have a community of people that are like-minded, that support us, can make all of the difference. And sometimes we can get that within our families, but if we can't get that within our families, then we have to look elsewhere, whether it be good friends, or whether it be in support networks such as this. You know, you find your friends in the most unlikely places, but it's important because it keeps your stress levels down. And as I've already discussed, you know what happens when your body becomes stressed. But then also, what we want to do is make sure that your body is working to its maximum. So there we are, different ways that you can actually speed up your recovery, using the natural foundation. And I hope you found that useful for today. All right, then, speak to you soon, girls. Bye.